What if Ned Stark, Jon Snow, and Daenerys Targaryen all fought for the Iron Throne against each other? The realm wouldn't survive their war. But who would? 3 names, 1 throne, and no room for loyalty. This is not a story of a civil war among the last hopes of peace. In this alternate timeline, one secret never stays buried, one oath is never broken, and the war for the Iron Throne becomes a deadly game between kin in the final days of Robert Baratheon's reign. Westeros was already teetering. Petty lords plotted in shadow. The dead stirred beyond the wall. But in this altered reality, everything changes with one simple decision. Ned Stark tells the truth. Instead of protecting Jon Snow's heritage as a secret, instead of allowing him to join the Night's Watch as a bastard, Ned Stark stands before Robert's deathbed and speaks the name Aegon Targaryen. The boy is not his son. He is the true-born son of Prince Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark. The rightful heir. The words ripple like wildfire through the Red Keep. Cersei's face drains of blood. Varys goes silent. Robert dies days later, not from a boar's wound, but from a heart split between betrayal and truth. Without Robert's protection, Ned is imprisoned by the Lannisters, but not executed. Why? Because he holds the one thing they need, legitimacy. They cannot kill the man who holds the truth of Jon's birth and, more importantly, a boy who can unite North and South under Targaryen blood, while the War of the 5 Kings never erupts in its original form. Something far worse brews, a war of succession with 3 righteous claims. Far to the east, Daenerys Targaryen hears of her nephew's existence. Instead of being the last of her line, she's now the aunt of a living male heir, one legitimized by the Warden of the North. Her fury isn't immediate. At first, she's hopeful, but advisors whisper. Ser Jorah warns her. In Westeros, men still prefer a king over a queen. Her fire grows. The Iron Throne was always hers. She endured the pyre, birthed dragons, crossed deserts. She will not yield to a boy raised in snow. Meanwhile, Jon, still recovering from the truth himself, is torn. Raised a Stark, yet born a Targaryen, he now finds himself a pawn in a game he never wanted to play. Yet something in him begins to shift. Not ambition, but responsibility. He learns quickly. Loyalty does not survive in the capital. Trust is poison. He begins to distance himself from Ned, who has become a prisoner in a golden cage under Lannister. Eyes dot at Dragonstone. Daenerys lands earlier than in the original timeline. She wastes no time consolidating forces. Her army is smaller than in the original series, but far more fanatical. They are not here to negotiate. They are here to claim. And she sends the first raven to Winterfell, not to parley, but to summon. Aegon Targaryen, son of my brother, bend the knee, and I will make you my heir. Refuse, and I will burn the path to the north. Jon's response is silence. In the south, chaos deepens. Ned Stark, once honorable, once quiet, has changed. The prison taught him that truth does not survive unless backed by force. Robb Stark, still alive and gathering men in the Riverlands, offers his sword to his father's cause, to crown Jon and bring justice to a corrupted capital. Yet Jon refuses to be crowned. So Ned makes a move himself. He escapes King's Landing with the help of loyal remnants in the City Watch and returns north with a single goal: make Jon king, with or without his consent. But Daenerys is already on the move. As Varys and Tyrion attempt to broker peace between aunt and nephew, Daenerys hardens. She no longer trusts advice. She trusts dragons. He is a dragon, she tells them. And dragons do not kneel to each other. They fight. Thus, the war begins. Not over ideals or rebellion, but over blood. 3 legacies, 3 leaders, and only 1 throne. By the time Jon meets Daenerys in the fields near Maidenpool, it is not as allies, it is as rivals. The dragons fly overhead, sizing each other up as ancient bloodlines prepare for civil war. Rhaegal snarls, Drogon bellows, and as Jon reaches for his sword not to strike, but to signal, the sky ignites behind him. Daenerys has chosen her answer, but the true danger is still north of the wall. As Jon watches flames devour the trees behind him, his heart sinks not because of Daenerys, but because of the letter he carries. It is unopened, sealed in wax, stamped by a trembling hand in the north. Samwell's message: the wall has fallen. The Night King marches. But Jon cannot turn back now, because in this new world, saving Westeros comes second. First, he must survive the fire of his own family. Daenerys gave Jon a choice: kneel or burn. But Jon carries a darker message. The wall has fallen, and the Night King marches. The fields outside Maidenpool smolder. Blackened grass. Ashes carried by wind. Jon Snow, no longer the quiet bastard of Winterfell, rides back toward the north, not to escape, but to regroup. Behind him, Daenerys watches from Dragonstone, unsatisfied. She expected a war of fire. Instead, she received silence. No surrender, no counterattack. Just the unsettling knowledge that her nephew would not yield, nor provoke. Tyrion Lannister stands between 2 dragons, both figuratively and literally. He warns Daenerys. The North follows him not because of his name, but because of his heart. She responds coldly. Then let them burn with it. Varys sees the writing on the wall. If Daenerys crushes Jon, Westeros may never heal. If Jon defeats Daenerys, the realm may never follow. For the first time, Varys contemplates something unthinkable splitting the realm. A north and south divided, but neither claimant will accept half a throne. 1. Meanwhile, in Winterfell, Ned Stark reclaims his place not as Warden of the North, but as Regent for Jon. He declares his son's true name in front of the Northern Lords. Aegon Targaryen, he says, true-born heir to Rhaegar, King of the 7 Kingdoms. The hall erupts not in cheers, but in quiet unrest. Some lords like Manderley and Umber bow their heads. Others, like Lyanna Mormont, hesitate. He was one of us, she says. Now you say he's not. Robb Stark returns from the Riverlands with a bloodied sword and a divided army. The North has bled for independence once. Will they bleed now for a Targaryen? Jon arrives days later, met by cold stares and cautious embraces. He finds Sansa change, less innocent, more calculating. She doubts Daenerys, but also doubts Jon's heart. You were ready to die for the realm, but will you fight for it? She asks. Jon does not answer. Back in the capital, Cersei Lannister watches the chaos unfold with rare amusement. With Daenerys and Jon poised to destroy each other, she consolidates her power quietly. Qyburn's whispers reach ears in the shadows. A plan to lure both dragons south. Let them burn each other. We'll salt the ashes, she says. But Cersei forgets one thing. Ned Stark is no longer predictable. The man she imprisoned once has become a ghost in her court's memory, but his allies are real. Gendry Baratheon, legitimized before Robert's death, now rides for Storm's End. Brienne of Tarth, still loyal to her oath, stands watch over Sansa, and in the Reach, Samwell Tarly begins to gather names lords who have suffered under Lannister and Dragon alike. Meanwhile, Daenerys grows more isolated. Her dragons respond only to her rage. Her armies dwindle. The Dothraki are restless, uneasy on Westerosi soil. Grey Worm watches with unease as Daenerys burns the grain stores of a rebellious village in the Stormlands. Fear is the only language they understand, she tells him. Jon watches too from afar, and his heart cracks. He begins building his own coalition, not from conquest, but from trust. Gendry brings the Stormland. Davos rallies the remnants of Stannis' men, and Tyrion, after a sleepless night and one final failed plea to Daenerys, boards a ship headed north. But it's not unity that fuels this moment, it's dread. Because as Jon gathers bannermen, Sam's letter becomes prophecy in the ruins of Eastwatch. The dead march. The Night King, mounted on an undead Viserion, sweeps through the Gift and Bear Island. The wildlings scatter. Tormund limps southward, with the few survivors who escaped. We saw him, he tells Jon, when they reunite. He flies, and he remembers you. Jon wants to unite forces with Daenerys. He sends ravens, but she refuses. If he wants peace, he can kneel, she replies. So Jon sends one final message, not to her, but to Ned. We'll march alone, but if the fire comes north, you know what must be done. In a forgotten chapel beneath Winterfell, Ned kneels beside the tombs of the old kings. I swore to protect this realm for Lyanna, he whispers, but how do I protect it from her child? As the snows begin to fall on King's Landing, Cersei opens a raven-marked scroll. Her eyes narrow, her lips curl. The White Walkers have crossed the neck. But more importantly, the message says, Jon and Daenerys will meet in the ruins of Harrenhal, and Cersei Lannister is already on her way there. 3 rulers, 1 battlefield, and winter is no longer coming. It is here Jon and Daenerys are marching toward Harrenhal. But Cersei is already on her way, bringing wildfire and vengeance. The blackened ruins of Harrenhal had long been a place of ghosts. Its scorched towers, melted by dragonfire centuries ago, now stood witness to history repeating itself. As Jon's forces arrive first, a grim chill hangs in the air. Not just the cold of northern wind, but of dread. For the first time, he prepares for battle not against the dead, but against family. He speaks little to his commanders. Gendry sees the weight in his silence, the sorrow in his restraint. You could still turn back, Gendry offers. Jon shakes his head. I saw what happens when we wait for mercy. Daenerys arrives the following morning, her army smaller than Jon's, but flanked by dragons' looming wings. She doesn't dismount immediately. Instead, she circles the castle ruins from the sky, a warning written in fire shadow. She lands before Jon's encampment and demands parley not peace, but final terms. Their meeting is tense. No guards, no swords, only words. Daenerys, you carry my brother's name, but not his will. Jon, and you carry fire, but not justice. She offers him marriage, to unify their claims. To end the war before it starts, Jon refuses. Not out of hate, not even pride, but principle. I've seen what power does when it stands alone, he says. It burns cities. It breaks oaths. It forgets mercy. Daenerys leaves with eyes like embers, but the war does not begin with them. It begins with Cersei. From the woods east of Harrenhal, her scouts light the sky with green. Wildfire barrels buried deep beneath the ruins ignite suddenly far from the armies, but close enough to send panic. Both sides scramble, believing the other betrayed the parley. Daenerys orders Dragon to take flight. Jon arms his archers. In the chaos, Cersei arrives, not to fight, but to watch. She watches as Daenerys, thinking Jon struck first, unleashes Drogon in a rage. The northern front is decimated. Gendry barely escapes with a fractured shield. Jon charges into the fire, trying to stop the slaughter, but his voice is lost beneath dragon screams. Cersei's cell's words begin picking off survivors from both sides, dressed in false banners. Her plan is clear. Let fire consume fire, then take the ashes, but one witness escapes. Arya Stark, who had been shadowing the battlefield unseen, watches from Harrenhal's broken tower. She sees the sabotage, the wildfire, the false flags, and she knows who lit them. She leaves that night with one face in her mind, Queen far to the north. The wall's silence becomes thunder. The Night King breaks through the last northern defense at the last hearth. The Umbers are lost. Whites ride with broken antlers on their skulls. Viserions' blue flame cracks through keeps like paper. Sansa sends desperate ravens, one to Robb, one to Ned, and one to the Vale. Meanwhile, Ned Stark waits with his bannered hosts at Moat Cailin, ready to reinforce Jon, but the messages arrive too late. The north burns behind him, his sons' war in the center, and the Queen marches toward the capital with lies written in green flame. Varys, now returned to King's Landing, finally breaks his oath of silence. He enters Cersei's throne room with nothing to lose. "You've betrayed the realm," he says. "You've started a war beneath the war." Cersei responds without rising from her chair. "I gave them what they wanted, fire." She has already sent ravens to every major house, blaming Daenerys for the wildfire at Harrenhal, accusing Jon of treason, and positioning herself as the only force of order. She offers pardons, she offers grain, she offers lies, and some houses believe her. In the Stormlands, Gendry's bastard lineage now becomes a liability. In the Reach, old Tyrell loyalists whisper of restoring balance through Lannister rule. In Dawn, silence. But silence means planning. Daenerys does not retreat, but she no longer trusts words. Tyrion returns to her side, trying once again to calm her fury. "Jon was not your enemy. Cersei was, but she is unmoved. She drew her sword. He let her." Jon retreats north, his army in shambles. He rides alone through burned fields until he sees a familiar shape waiting in the frost ghost. The direwolf limps to him scarred, bloodied but alive. Jon kneels, resting his head against its fur. He has lost the North's trust, lost Daenerys' faith, and now winter is no longer something to fear. It's something to fight with at Castle Black. Samwell reads the final words of a dead maester's letter. "If the living do not unite, they will serve in silence." As snow falls over King's Landing, a faceless figure walks through the Red Keep's gardens, unseen by all. The guards not believing her to be one of their own. She enters the Queen's private quarters. In her pocket, she carries a blade. In her heart, a name. Arya has come to kill the Queen. But Cersei is not alone. Seer Gregor waits in the shadows, and Qyburn watches with curiosity, because even death now has a master. Arya enters the Red Keep to kill Cersei, but the Queen has more than just the mountain guarding her. She has the realm's belief. Cersei Lannister's greatest weapon has never been her armies. It's her narrative. As Jon limps north and Daenerys burns east, Cersei's couriers flood Westeros with tales of the Mad Queen's betrayal and the Bastard King's rebellion. Her letters are persuasive, forged in truth wrapped with lies. She speaks of wildfire at Harrenhal, but omits her hand in it. She speaks of dragons, but calls them destroyers. She speaks of Jon, but names him Oathbreaker, betrayer of his queen. The realm, weary and confused, listens in the Reach. House Talia, restored by Queen Cersei after Samwell's exile, rallies bannermen against Daenerys. The Golden Company, once broken, regathers under a banner of order, not conquest. And in the Riverlands, Brienne of Tarth finds herself caught between Robb Stark's northern rebels and newly declared loyalists of the crown. Meanwhile, Arya has failed. She came with death in her hand, but the mountain was faster. Qyburn had predicted her arrival. Arya survives only because she chooses flight over martyrdom. Disguised as a maid, she flees the Red Keep, wounded and humiliated, with a new truth in her mind. Cersei is no longer just a queen. She is a tyrant with the illusion of peace in Winterfell. Sansa receives news from three fronts: Jon's retreat, Daenerys' silence, and Cersei's growing influence. For the first time, she begins to question her brother's choices. She convenes the Northern Lords without Jon or Robb, and says what no Stark has dared say aloud: perhaps the North should no longer serve a dragon or a wolf. Ned Stark hears of this declaration as he camps in the Neck with his diminished forces. The North is fracturing, the realm is breaking, and his sons are nowhere near a crown. He sends a raven to Jon with a single line: "You must become what they fear you are, a king." But Jon, riding alone through the Riverlands, finds no strength in titles. He stops at a burnt farmhouse once owned by a family he had met during his ride south, all dead now, victims of wildfire or dragonfire, or both. He buries the children himself, without words. Then he turns his horse south again, not to join Daenerys, but to confront her. At Dragonstone, Daenerys holds court alone. Missandei is gone. Tyrion has not returned. Grey Worm stands by her, but speaks little. She receives news of Arya's attempt on Cersei's life with measured silence. She still draws breath, Daenerys says, but not for long. When Jon arrives, he is not welcomed, but she allows him entry. Their conversation is short. Jon: Cersei plays us against each other. Daenerys: then why did you abandon me at Harrenhal? Jon: because you chose fire when there was still a chance for words. Daenerys steps closer. Her voice is low. Do you still believe in words now, Aegon? He doesn't answer. He asks instead, if we fight her together, will you stop with her? No, she replies, because now it is not about the throne, it is about erasing all who denied her, doubted her, slowed her. She believes it is the only way the world will be. Reborn Jon leaves with no peace made, and from the shadows of Dragonstone's cliffs, Davos Seaworth watches the two figures who were once the realm's hope walk separate paths into war. In King's Landing, Qyburn prepares something dark. In the vaults beneath the Red Keep, he experiments with more than wildfire. Captured whites transported from the north during the earlier Summertar, being tortured, studied. Cersei does not fear the Night King. She plans to use the undead as weapons. Meanwhile, Brienne brings news to Ned Stark of Sansa's secession speech, of Cersei's weapons, and of Arya's near death. For the first time in years, Ned Stark's Honor begins to fracture. If the throne cannot unite them, he says, perhaps the grave will. He sends a raven not to Jon, nor Daenerys, but to the Vale, a letter sealed with ice and blood. Robb Stark, now acting as Lord Commander of the combined Northern and Riverland forces, receives a copy of Sansa's declaration. He is furious. She would split the realm because her pride was bruised. But his fury is complicated. He no longer knows who he's fighting for. Jon, Daenerys, the North. He needs a victory. So he takes one. Robb marches on Harrenhal, what's left of it. He defeats the mercenaries who remained behind after Cersei's trap. He raises a new banner over the ruins. Not Stark, not Targaryen, a white wolf bleeding from the eyes. The realm sees it, and whispers begin. A third contender. In the narrow alleys of Old Town, Samwell Tarly unearths something buried deep in a forbidden text. A prophecy never spoken in full. It speaks of the child of snow and storm, the wolf that will burn, and the realm devoured by 3 heads. He reads it again and again, and then he realizes this was never a story of 2 dragons and a wolf. It was always a story of 3 monsters. Robb Stark has claimed Harrenhal under a new banner, but in doing so, he may have declared war not just on dragons, but on his own blood. In the cold mist of Harrenhal, a new standard flutters in defiance. A white direwolf, its eyes weeping blood. For the small folk, it is hope. For the lords, confusion. For Jon and Daenerys, it is a challenge. Robb Stark does not call himself king not yet, but he knows what his claim implies. The North no longer speaks with one voice. Winterfell sides with Sansa, the Riverlands kneel to Robb, and the rest of the realm watches in silence, waiting to see if this young wolf dares grow fangs. News of Harrenhal's liberation spreads fast. Tyrion, riding hard from Dragonstone to try once more to salvage peace, intercepts the raven on the King's Road. He reads it, lips tightening. 3 claims, he mutters, 3 fires, and only 1 throne. He turns his horse toward Harrenhal. At the same time, Jon Snow returns to Moat Cailin to confront Ned, the man who once raised him as a son but now manipulates him like a symbol. Ned welcomes him without joy. You sent a raven to the Vale behind. My back, Jon says. I did what I had to do, Ned answers. You refuse to wear the crown, but the realm will not wait for your grief to end. Jon turns his back. Then crown yourself, father. But Ned doesn't want the throne. He wants survival. And in this new realm, survival requires force. He tells Jon plainly, if you won't be king, someone else will. And the one who takes it may not be a Stark, or even human. Meanwhile, Daenerys prepares for conquest. With Drogon alone, she cannot afford to burn another army. Instead, she shifts tactics. Through captured couriers and paid informants, she begins spreading a new message across the Riverlands and Crownlands. Robb Stark is the true traitor. He is the reason the war escalated. He is the wolf who betrayed his pack. She does not realize yet that her own messages are being intercepted. Qyburn has loosed his little birds against spreading false rumors of a secret love affair between Daenerys and Jon. A betrayal of the North, a plan to breed dragons of both blood and womb. The realm eats up every whisper. Truth dies, as it always has, by rumor's hand. In Old Town, Samwell writes furiously. The prophecy he discovered continues to haunt him. 3 heads, 3 claims, 3 ruins. He fears its meaning is literal. He sends ravens to Jon, to Robb, to Daenerys, only one of them replies, "Robb, the reply is short. Come, tell me the truth yourself." Sam sets out at once. Back in the capital, Cersei prepares her next move. She knows Daenerys will soon strike again, and Jon is wounded politically. But Robb's rise poses a new complication. She sends envoys to Sansa in Winterfell, offering her independence in exchange for silence. "Let the boys bleed each other dry," Cersei writes. "You need only wait." Sansa does not answer, but she begins to prepare Winterfell's defenses, just in case the war finds her, too. Arya, still recovering from her wounds in the Riverlands, joins a group of Brotherhood outlaws, once loyal to Beric Dondarrion. They no longer fight for banners. They fight for vengeance. She becomes their shadow once again, hunting Lannister scouts in silence. But something grows in her, something colder than revenge. She no longer believes in one throne, or in any ruler. "Kill them all," she whispers to herself one night, "and let the realm decide." Meanwhile, Tyrion arrives at Harrenhl. Robb greets him with caution but curiosity. Tyrion lays out what Sam discovered of the prophecy of the coming storm, of the dangers beyond mere politics. Robb listens, and then, finally, he speaks what has been growing in his chest since his father's return. "We were never meant to rule together," he says. "Not me, not Jon, not Daenerys. We were meant to cancel each other." Tyrion presses him. "And what then? Let the Lannisters win." Robb turns toward the ruined hearth of Harrenhal and drops a fresh banner into the flames. "No," he says. "We end them all, one by one." Tyrion does not know whether to fear him or follow him. In the Dreadfort, a shadow rises. Ramsay Snow, forgotten in the chaos, begins taking abandoned castles in the north, bolstered by sellswords and deserters. He declares himself warden of the true north, and no one challenges him yet. But Sansa receives word. Her voice shakes as she reads the parchment. "He's back," she says, and suddenly she realizes the north is being carved apart from within. As Jon rides east again, he crosses paths with a strange traveler, Red Priestess with pale eyes and a half-burned face. Not Melisandre, another Dot. She tells him one thing before vanishing into the woods. "You will kneel before death, or become it." He does not understand, but he rides harder. At Dragonstone, Daenerys finally receives a raven. Dot. It bears only one sentence from Qyburn. The wolf has learned to lie. Beneath it, an enclosed drawing, a new banner flying over Riverrun, a bleeding wolf with dragon wings. Daenerys drops the scroll. Robb Stark is no longer just a Stark. He is becoming something else, something no one, not even fire, can control. Robb Stark now flies a banner that merges wolf and dragon. But to claim the realm, he must first destroy the two names that made him. Daenerys Targaryen stares into the crackling fire at Dragonstone, the scroll from Qyburn clutched in her hand. The wolf has learned to lie. She knows Robb Stark is not merely another rebel. He is rewriting blood, merging fire and ice into a false prophecy, claiming dragon heritage through strategy, not birth. And worse, the realm is beginning to believe him. "He has no dragons," she mutters. But belief can burn just as easily as flame. Grey Worm urges her to strike Harrenhal. It's vulnerable. A swift victory would crush Robb's rising legend. Tyrion, newly returned and visibly shaken from Harrenhal, argues otherwise. You don't defeat a wolf in its den by setting fire to the forest. You starve it, isolate it. Daenerys listens, then decides on both. Jon Snow, meanwhile, rides toward the Riverlands with fewer men and fewer illusions. Ned has remained in the north, rallying whatever houses will still answer a Stark without a claim. But Jon no longer seeks permission. He now wears black armor, trimmed in crimson, echoing the Targaryen colors. Ghost rides beside him, Davos at his side. Behind them, broken men, what remains of the North's loyalty. But Jon carries something. Daenerys and Robb have begun to forget the truth in a destroyed village near Madenpool. Jon meets with Samwell Tarly. Sam delivers the full text of the prophecy. 3 heads of the dragon, 3 trials, 3 betrayals, 1 to fire, 1 to blood, 1 to the grave. Jon barely reacts, but Sam sees it in his eyes. The burden is eating him alive. I fear the final trial is not the White Walkers, Sam says. Jon answers, softly, it's us. Across the Blackwater Rush, Robb Stark prepares his next move. His advisors, mostly Riverlords and younger Stark loyalists, urge him to press toward King's Landing. But Robb hesitates. He knows what Cersei has prepared. More wildfire, more traps, and something worse, his name poisoned. Whispers of his dragon banner have taken root in the north. Sansa sends a raven with sharp words. You are not a dragon, and you were never the heir. Robb burns it without reply, but he does not forget it. Instead, he sends a message to Jon. Meet me, no blades, no banners, no lies. They meet at the ruins of the Crossroads Inn, under the watch of a silent weirwood stump. 2 brothers, both tired, both armed but neither reaching for steel. You called me a liar, Jon says. You crowned yourself with her legacy, Robb replies. I never wanted her crown, or yours. Then why do they keep following you? They talk for hours about the war, the realm, Ned Daenerys, the dead still marching unseen from the north. For a moment, peace seems possible, but as they part, neither offers allegiance. They are now too far gone, and the war no longer waits. That same night, Arya arrives in Winterfell, silent, cold, changed. Sansa embraces her, but quickly realizes the girl who left is not the girl who returned. Arya says only one thing before retreating into the shadows. You'll need to choose soon, and neither choice leads home. Back in King's Landing, begins distributing forged royal decrees. One declares Daenerys illegitimate, the daughter of a Dothraki witch, not Rhaegar's sister. Another declares Jon a bastard twice over. A third claims Robb is a Targaryen cultist, seduced by prophecy. Truth dies louder now, but the game changes when Qyburn unleashes his new creation. A captured White Walker, corpse reanimated, chained, and delivered in a wagon to the gates of Riverrun. Let the boy play with dragons, Cersei sneers. We play with death itself. Back at Harrenhal, Robb sees the creature and understands the message. The Night King is no longer myth. Winter is real, but the realm is too divided to care. So Robb sends a message not to Jon, not to Daenerys, but to Cersei. You want fire? Let's see if you can bleed. And begins marching south. At the same time, Daenerys does the unthinkable. She flies north, not to Jon, not to war, but to the wall. She lands Drogon in the icy ruins of Eastwatch, and walks alone into the frozen dark, where Tormund waits. I've come to see the end, she says. Tormund shakes his head. You brought fire. You won't find it here. And yet, she does. Far beyond the ruins, in a valley frozen black with time, she sees it. The White Walkers, gathering thousands, and one face among them, Vysa, Ion. Her child, dead, undead, eyes burning blue. She stumbles back, and in that moment, her purpose shifts. The Iron Throne no longer matters, only vengeance. As Daenerys flies south once more, fire in her eyes and frost in her veins, Jon receives a raven from Castle Black. The Night King moves, south of the wall. Thousands follow. He reads it once, then again, and realizes the war for the throne is no longer the realm's greatest danger. It's the war for survival, but the realm won't listen because wolves are howling and dragons are screaming. The Night King marches, but no one is watching. As Jon, Daenerys, and Robb prepare for war, the realm turns its back on death until it arrives. Snow begins falling in the Crownlands. Not ash, not smoke, snow, and still the lords argue in King's Landing. Cersei Lannister stands atop the ramparts, gazing out at the southern road. Scouts report movement fast and wide. Is it Jon? She asks. Qborn shakes his head. It's something else. But she does not believe in ghosts. Not truly, not even now. She arms her wildfire in the Riverlands. Robb Stark's army now holds the line between Harrenhal and Riverrun. His banner, the bleeding wolf, with dragon wings flies above every bridge and pass. Lords begin calling him King Robb the Redeemer. He does not correct them. Tyrion warns him, "You can't fight ice and fire at once." Robb replies, "Then we burn the frost and break the flame." In the north, Jon Snow returns to Winterfell for the first time in months. Sansa meets him with wary eyes, Arya with none at all. Ned, older and harder, embraces him silently. The fire between them, once rooted in lies, is now frost, made solid by truth. Jon reveals what Sam has confirmed. The Night King has split his army. One host marches west, toward the Vale, another south, through the Neck. He rides a dead dragon. Jon's plan is simple. We stop fighting each other, now. But Sansa refuses. You think they'll stop if you lower your sword. You think Daenerys will kneel to mercy. You think Robb still knows what mercy is. Jon clenches his fists. He doesn't argue. He simply walks away. That night, he sends Ghost to the Dreadfort with a single command: watch the Boltons. Because Ramsay is no longer hiding. He's claiming castles, murdering loyalists, and calling himself the Lord of the Last Light. And worse, his men are joining him. The north is bleeding from within. Daenerys lands at Dragonstone and prepares to strike, but something has changed in her. She has seen the White Walkers. She has seen her dead child. And now she is done asking. She summons her commanders. What's left of the Unsullied? The remaining Dothraki, Tyrion, even Varys. She tells them, we march north, not to save them, to stop what's coming. Varys protests, you'll lose the capital. She stares him down. Let it burn. Meanwhile, at the Eyrie, Lord Robin, Arryn receives a raven marked with Ned Stark's seal. Within it is an offer. Send your knights, or be the first to fall when the frost takes wing. For the first time, Robin chooses action over cowardice. The knights of the Vale begin to ride, but the snow moves faster. White Walkers, splitting from the main host, descend on the Neck. Moat Cailin falls within a night. Greyjoy outposts crumble under silence. Jon is out of time. He sends ravens to Robb, to Daenerys, even to Cersei. Only Robb replies, "We'll meet them at the Trident. Bring what you have." And so it begins. The Trident where Rager fell, where Robert's rebellion was born, becomes the site of another war, not of men, but of memory. 3 armies arrive: Jon's wolves, Robb's storm-blooded hosts, and Daenerys riding Drogon. Fire behind her and vengeance in her chest. But before they can fight each other, the storm arrives. Snow, sudden and brutal, wind like blades, and then Viserion, burning blue, screaming frost. The White Walkers descend on all 3 armies, cutting through men and horse alike. Spears of ice, dead giants, screams, and amidst it all, 3 claimants, 3 rulers, forced to fight the same enemy for the first time. Jon carves through whites with long claw, blood freezing on his face. Robb loses his horse, fights on foot, roaring like grey. Wind reborn. Daenerys and Drogon set entire fields alight, but flame alone is not enough. Jon sees her fall from Drogon's back. Robb rushes toward her. Ghost tears through whites beside them, and for one frozen heartbeat, the 3 stand together, shoulder to shoulder. But unity comes too late. The Night King appears, no longer riding, walking straight. Toward them he raises his hand, and the river begins to freeze. The Trident stops flowing. The dead stand again. Dragon screams as Viserion descends in a cyclone of ice. Robb grabs Jon's arm. "Now or never," he growls. Jon looks at Daenerys, then at the Night King, then lifts LONGCLAW.1. Swing.1 choice. But before it lands, the world turns white and silence takes them at the Trident. The 3 rulers finally fought together, but too late. The Night King arrived, and the river froze over with death. Silence stretches across the battlefield, not the silence of peace, but of absolute cold, of magic beyond understanding. The Trident, once roaring and wild, now lies frozen thick with ice and the bodies of the fallen. Trees are splintered, tents shredded, flames smothered. The sky above is grey, but the ground below is blue with undeath. When sound returns, it is in gasps, coughs, the crunch of frost under boot. Jon Snow rises first, blood on his brow, his breath shallow. Longclaw lies at his feet, rimmed with frost. Nearby, Robb Stark limps to his knees, one arm hanging useless. Daenerys, wrapped in torn furs, pushes herself upright, eyes wild searching for Drogon. He's alive. Wounded, but alive, and so are they, but many are not. Thousands lie scattered northern bannermen, Dothraki riders, Riverland lords, and not all of them stay dead. The Night King's retreat is not surrender, it is strategy. He came to measure them, not to end them. He now knows who they are, and what they fear, as the survivors regroup. A strange and bitter moment arises. All 3 leaders stand together, not as allies, but as survivors of a greater enemy. Tyrion is the first to speak. "This is the price of your war." No one answers him. Later that night, around a meager fire, Robb turns to Jon. "You came when I called. I came for the dead." Same thing now, isn't it? They share bread, but no trust. They know this truce cannot last. It is a pause, nothing more. Daenerys sits apart. She says nothing. Her dragon curls around her like a dying god. Grey worm tends to her wounds. Her eyes never leave the sky. She saw Viserion again, and he did not flinch. Elsewhere, Sansa receives word of the battle. Arya reads the Raven aloud. Trident frozen, White Walkers retreated. Jon, Robb, Daenerys survived. Sansa speaks only one sentence. Then the realm is still in danger. Arya asks, from whom? Sansa doesn't answer. She orders Winterfell's defenses tripled. She begins digging tunnels beneath the walls. If fire and ice both fall, she says, the North will survive underground. In King's Landing, Qyburn reads the same reports, with an almost gleeful grin. They wounded each other, he says. Now they'll bleed out. Cersei orders her armies to hold back. Let them fight their next battle without her. She prepares her final card. Wildfire caches, placed now in the Riverlands, hidden among ruins, under bridges, in keeps. Her goal is simple. When they march south again, she light the realm herself. No throne, no heirs, only her legacy, back. At the Trident, a funeral pyre is built. Hundreds of dead are burned. Robb lights the fire. Jon speaks the words. Daenerys says nothing, but when it ends, she turns to Jon and speaks. I've seen the long night, and I've seen the throne. One must fall. Jon nods. Then let the throne burn. Daenerys doesn't smile. No, I will sit it, and then I will destroy it. Tyrion pleads with both. Form a council, share power, rule by rotation if they must. But Robb interrupts. No more compromises. The realm is tired of them. It wants a king. It wants a queen. It doesn't want both. Jon stares at his brother. Daenerys stares at them both. And quietly, she climbs onto Drogon and flies. She is not running. She is going to finish this war. Jon turns to Robb. Then we stop her. But Robb is already saddling his horse. No, Jon, I stop her. And for the first time, the two brothers draw swords. Not to fight yet, but to show that the war of wolves and dragons is not over. Meanwhile, far to the north, the Night King watches. He stands in a shattered hall, once a castle, now frozen ruins. Around him, his lieutenants stir. He lifts one pale finger, and the wind changes. Direction south, he begins to walk. Not fast, but with certainty, because now he knows what burns and what breaks. As the sun rises over the Trident, a raven takes flight from the battlefield it carries. One final message from Samwell Tarly, written before the battle began. It reads, 3 trials, 3 betrayals. The final head shall wear no crown. The one who kills the throne shall save the world. The raven flies toward King's Landing, toward the throne, and in the throne room, lit by morning fire, Arya Stark waits. Alone, with a knife in her hand. Arya waits in the Red Keep with a blade. Daenerys flies toward the capital. Jon and Robb march again, but only one of them is destined to destroy the throne. The sky over King's Landing blackens not with smoke, but with wings. Dragon descends from the clouds like judgment itself, fire crackling in his belly. Daenerys, wounded and exhausted, grips his back with fury in her heart and ash in her eyes. She's not here to negotiate. She's here to end the cycle too, burn the wheel once and for all. But the wheel is already moving. Cersei Lannister stands in her tower, staring out at the advancing shadow. Let the city burn, she whispers. Qyburn nods, giving the final signal. Wildfire barrels, planted beneath the city's most sacred and strategic sites, are armed. All that remains is one final command. But before she can speak, Itaria appears behind her. No face, no sound, only steel. Cersei turns slowly, unafraid. You're late. Arya lunges. But Seer Gregor moves faster. Arya's blade misses Cersei by inches before the mountain grabs her, slamming her into stone. She gasps. Blood, but her hand doesn't let go of the blade. Cersei orders Gregor to finish it. He doesn't move, because Qyburn is dead, thrown aside like a Dolland. The mountain is now uncontrolled. Arya doesn't hesitate. She rolls, strikes. Gregor falls, but not dead, just distracted. It's enough. Arya rises, bloodied, limping, and plunges her blade into Cersei's heart. No last words, only silence. The queen is dead, but the trap is already armed, and Wildfire is unforgiving. Outside the city walls, Jon's host arrives to the thunder of wings. He sees Drogon circling. He knows what's about to happen. His orders are simple: do not advance. But Robb does not wait. His army charges the gates, hoping to stop Daenerys, to reclaim the throne, to end this madness before it begins. Jon screams. After them, Davos pleads. But it's too late. Robb rides at the front, sword drawn, heart pounding. He sees fire building in Dragon's mouth. He sees the throne, somewhere behind the gates. And he doesn't stop. Daenerys lands inside the Red Keep just as Arya stumbles into the throne room. They lock eyes for the first time. Two women. One goal, but different paths. Arya lowers her blade. I already did what needed doing. Daenerys walks past her, stands before the iron. Throne it's smaller than she imagined, older, rusted, sharp, and she smiles, but before her hand touches it, the walls explode. Wildfire ignites across King's Landing. Flames roar through alleys. Towers shatter. The Sept is consumed. The Red Keep trembles. Drogon howls in rage and launches upward, searching for the source. Daenerys stumbles backward, caught in the blast. Arya is thrown across the room, and in that moment, from beneath the crumbling rubble, a figure rises. Jon Snow, covered in dust, bleeding, sword still in hand. He sees the throne, sees Daenerys, and realizes what must happen. She turns to him, eyes blazing. They'll never follow you. I don't want them to. You'd kill me for them. No, Jon says, for what's left of us. And he steps forward. Arya what? To move. Drogon lands outside, roaring, but no fire comes. Because in the end, it's not fire that ends. Daenerys. It's mercy. Jon drops his sword and walks away. Behind him, the Red Keep begins to collapse. He doesn't look back. Robb, barely alive, watches the city burn. His army is gone. The gates are sealed, and still the Night King marches. Far in the north, under skies as black as ink, the Night King crosses the last river before the capital. His army no longer hides. Giants, dragons, WIGHTS, in armor, and the White Walkers, cloaked in silence. They do not speak, they do not feel. They only march toward the ruins of a kingdom, toward the shattered dreams of wolves and dragons, toward the final fire. Daenerys is gone. King's Landing is rubble. Robb lies dying. Jon walks away from it all. But winter doesn't care who rules it, only marches. Ash and snow fall together now, indistinguishable in the ruined streets of King's Landing. The Iron Throne is buried beneath rubble, melted by wildfire and broken stone. The Red Keep is a corpse. No ruler stands, no crown gleams. The realm has no monoconally survivors. Robb Stark lies on a shattered slab of stone, his armor burned into his skin. He lives barely. The Maester tending to him does not promise tomorrow. But Robb clings to one thought. He did not win, and that may be the only victory left. Jon Snow has vanished. No one knows where he went after leaving the throne room. Some say he rode north. Others say he took a ship across the narrow sea. Tyrion believes he walked into the ashes and became one with the ruin he tried to prevent. Arya remains, quiet, ghost-like, in the Red Keep's ruins. She has no more names, no more lists. She does not seek thrones or revenge. She buries Cersei and the mountain herself stone by stone, alone in Winterfell. Sansa receives word of Daenerys' death and the throne's destruction. She does not weep. She simply calls a council. The lords of the north, the Vale, the Riverlands, and parts of the Reach attend weary, broken. They ask her, what now? Sansa stands before them in a fur-lined cloak, not a crown. There is no throne, and there never was. The council stares in silence. Then she says, we rule ourselves. Each region, together or apart. The realm doesn't declare a king. It doesn't elect a queen. It fragments by necessity, not ambition. Each region begins to rebuild on its own. Peace isn't declared, but war exhausts itself. For now, far to the east, Dragon is seen flying over old Valyria, carrying something twisted and melted in his claws. Some say it was the throne. Others say it was Daenerys herself. No one knows, but the skies over Valyria burn brighter now. Tyrion becomes a wandering envoy carrying letters, forging treaties, offering wisdom from a broken world he no longer serves a monarch. He serves the realm, such as it is. Grey Worm sails to Noth, taking Daenerys' ashes with him. The Unsullied follow, finally free, truly free, and in the far, far north. Beyond even the ruined wall Jon Snow walks alone. No banners, no crown, only ghost beside him. He finds the weirwood tree near the shattered castle of Craster's Keep, and he kneels there, waiting. He feels the cold before he sees them. The Night King arrives, not as conqueror, but as death incarnate. Jon rises, sword in hand, and alone, no dragons, no armies, only choice. And in that final moment, something changes. The Night King halts, the snow stops, and the dead do not advance. Because Jon does not fight, he canes else, and opens his palm in it. Dragonglass, he drops it, refuses. It and the Night King ... vanishes. No explosion, no battle, just ... wind. The long night ends, not with fire, not with steel, but surrender. A choice to let the throne beyond with it. The hunger for more. The realm fragments into 7 kingdoms once more. No single ruler unites them. Instead, each territory governs its own fate. Sansa becomes warden. Of the North, not queen, not lady, just a protector. Robb lives out his remaining days as a broken man, refusing further titles. Arya sails west, chasing no prophesage, just freedom. Tyrion becomes the last voice of reason in a land that no longer trusts voices. He writes a book titled A Song of Fire and Wolves, and Jon is never seen again. Daenerys dies not as a tyrant, nor as a savior, but as someone who believed the throne was salvation. She is mourned in silence, remembered with fire. Robb lives, but never rules. Arya disappears beyond maps. Sansa builds schools and farms, not castles. Tyrion writes history instead of shaping it. Cersei is buried beside the very throne she corrupted. No statue is made. No song is sung. Jon becomes legend, not for killing kings, but for refusing to become one. World state, 200 words. Westeros becomes a realm of independent powers. Trade returns. The Sept is rebuilt, not as a monument to gods but as a gathering place for councils. Ravens fly slower now. Decisions are made regionally. There is no Iron Throne, only stone benches and long discussions. Peace is not permanent, but it is earned and remembered. In the end, no crown was strong enough. Not Ned's honor, not Daenerys' fire, not Robb's vengeance. Only one choice mattered: to end the cycle, not feed it. Jon Snow did not win the Game of Thrones. He ended it, and perhaps, in doing so, saved what was left of the world.